Excalibur is the poster boy of Warframe. He is most likely the first Warframe that you have picked when you started off playing the game. I know he was for me. He was always incredibly good, but never so good that you can really make him work. But nowadays the story is different. Alongside this build, we will make Excalibur great again, so let's quickly hop into the video. Excalibur was my first choice. He was the most balanced Warframe, and plus he has an exalted katana with that nowadays can empty out rooms in a couple of seconds. Before we empty out the room, everyone's gonna flock and look at the endgame fashion frame. This is what it looks like up on screen. I do have to say that this skin looks incredibly good. I loved it. This is the best deluxe skin, one of the best ones in the game. You can see the colors, you can see the attachments, you can see the sand on. Everything that you would want to know is up on screen alongside the colors. I love it. Comment down below on what you think of the fashion frame. I'm quite interested. Now, we're going to be doing the usual, covering the passive and covering the abilities, keeping in mind that we have two different Warframe variants here. We have the Umbra, which is going to be a little bit later on for newer players, and the base Excalibur version. We do have the Prime variant as well, but a lot of you are not going to have it, and the people that do, well, you can just follow the Excalibur build. So let's quickly hop into the passive, which is going to be that Excalibur gains 10% attack speed and 10% damage bonus on your melee attacks if you're wielding swords, dual swords, nikanas, rapiers, and of course your Exalted Blade. Keeping in mind that these bonuses are additive to mods such as Pressure Point and Fury, which is going to be very nice. There is a little bit of a difference between the Umbral variant, where when you enter your operator form, your Excalibur is going to get controlled by sort of a specter, so it's going to be moving around and using abilities and doing what the Spectre would usually do. When you return, it's gonna give you back the control. But we do have something to get rid of that, and that is gonna be Warrior's Rest. This augment changes it up, so it gives you additional 15% power strength, but it disables that when you exit into your operator, so it no longer moves around. Now that the passives are done, we need to slash dash into our first ability, which is, well, slash dash, and you slash into enemies. There's gonna be a lot of slashes here, dealing slash damage, and unless you press any sort of movement key or just activate your first ability again, you're going to be continuously slashing enemies in a nearby radius. This ability in and of itself is not that useful, but one of the best things is this is your free rolling guard, because whilst you're in slash dash, you are invulnerable, and that is going to help you out when you're trying to shield gate. What's not going to help you out a lot, but it is very useful, is Radial Blind, the second ability of Excalibur. Enemy in the near vicinity will get blinded and open up the finishers. There is a little bit of a difference with the Umbral variant. It is called the Radial Howl, and it does pretty much the same thing, but it also ships the immunity from sentience as well. We're going to be changing this ability out, no matter how good blinding enemies is. Increasing your power strength and increasing your melee damage is much better through Roar. Roar is going to be incredibly good. It does what I just said, and you pretty much want to have this active all of the time. If you do want to have a little bit of fun, and you know me, I love my Wrathful Advance, this is going to be the second ability, well, Wrathful Advance from Calero. This will give you insane red crit numbers, and you can also teleport with this ability, which is going to be pretty nice. But both of these are going to be so good. I don't recommend you to use Nourish because you don't have energy and or viral issues. You'll find out why in just a second. But the third ability, Radial Javelin. Enemies inside of Excalibur's line of sight, keep that in mind, that's very important. So the enemies that you can see up on screen will get tagged by Radial Javelins and dealt slash damage. Enemies that are behind obstacles will not get tagged. That is not that important. We're going to be bringing those enemies closer in a little bit later. What we want from this is the Augment Furious Javelin. Each one of the javelins that tags an enemy will give you a certain percentage of melee damage, which you will be able to bring up to thousands if there's enough enemies nearby. Trust me, this is going to help you out a lot. And of course, the main thing, Exalted Blade, his fourth ability and his exalted weapon as well. You basically summon a sword out of thin air, which looks amazing, and you start launching slashing waves that travel to a certain distance, and they have infinite punch through obstacles and body punch through as well, no matter the thickness of the obstacle, but you keep in mind that there is a range limit to the actual wave itself. It does puncture, it does impact, and primarily slash damage, but we're going to be changing this out with the Augment Monochromatic Blade. Depending on your primary emissive color, which for me is going to be purple or blue, I guess, which is going to be electricity, you are going to be dealing primarily elemental damage. So no more physical damage types, only elemental damage, and you're going to see the build in just a little bit. Before that, we want the Excalibur build, and this is the base Excalibur build right up on screen. In the aura slot, we have growing power, we have transient fortitude and precision intensify for a little bit of power strength. We have adaptation for a little bit of survivability, alongside equilibrium, which will give us energy and health as well. We have cunning drift for a little bit of range for Radial Javelin. We have prime continuity, prime flow, chromatic blade, and furious javelin. If you don't have the prime mods, or if you don't have the mods maxed out, just try to aim for this and try to use the base variants of the mods, but the prime variants are going to help you out a lot. Mote Augmented and Arcane Aegis are going to be incredibly good. Arcane Aegis for a little bit of survivability. You can use Arcane Blessing as well if you really want to, and Mote Augmented is pretty much a must. I would highly recommend you use this one. This is going to be a build for those Warframe players that are just entering Steel Path, so you're just like freshly into Steel Path and you want to defeat enemies. This is going to be enough for you. I do want to show you the Exalted Blade build, and this is it up on screen. Prime Pressure Point is going to help you out a lot. If you don't have it, try to get it. It's not that expensive. I highly recommend you do. And Melee Influence is pretty much a must. To make this build work, you pretty much need it. What does it do? On Electricity status effect, you have a 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. Now, this cannot reactivate if it's already active, but this is gonna clear out rooms. Trust me, you don't have to have a maxed out one. Try to get yourself at least rank 3, somewhere around there, but this is going to be what's going to be nuking those enemies. What's going to be pretty good, if you don't want to use Prime Pressure Point and you want to use Condition Overload, the primary of choice is going to be the Cedo. This is it right up on screen. The Cedo is incredibly good. The Altfire applies loads and loads of status effects, and this is a must-have if you're going to be using Condition Overload. If you're not, it's still going to be a great option because you never know in Steel Path. I do want to mention that we don't actually have any Archon Shards on this one because this is the base variant of the Warframe. You're not going to be investing a lot into it, but in the Umbra variant, you probably are. And this is what the build for the Umbral Excalibur looks like. We have growing power in the aura slot, we have Umbral Intensify and Transient Fortitude for power strength, we have Umbral Vitality and Adaptation for survivability, alongside equilibrium, energy, health, so on and so forth. We have Prime Continuity, and we do have the 2 augments, Furious Javelin, Chromatic Blade, Mote Augmented, and Arcane Aegis here as well, alongside Warrior's Rest. Keeping in mind that you can change out growing power for Brief Respite, which is going to help you out with a little bit of shield gating, keeping in mind that, as I said, your first ability pretty much is a free rolling guard. Now, I know you can see that the 3rd Umbral Forma has been removed from my Excalibur Umbra. That is because I find adaptation much more useful than Umbral Fiber, even though you do gain an increase in your health, armor, and you also gain an increase in power strength. If you want to use something similar to that, I would highly recommend Arcane Reaper. Arcane Reaper is pretty expensive as an arcane, but it will give you health regen and it will also give you armor, which is going to help you out a lot, finding no need to utilize the 3rd Umbral mod, using adaptation, and making your build much better. And of course, we do need our Exalted Umbral Blade, and this is what it looks like. This is the build. I utilize the galvanized mods, as I said earlier. I highly recommend you do. Again, melee influence, the main thing that does damage here. Dreamer's Wrath, I didn't mention earlier, but I do highly recommend because you can still do 10 Okai attacks, and they do a lot of damage, so I highly recommend you use Dreamer's Wrath because that's going to increase the critical damage of your heavy attacks. Something that I also highly recommend to keep that combo counter up is the Focus School of Choice. We have Nerimond. With Power Spike, your melee combo counter is no longer gonna disappear, but it is going to decay. And Opening Slam, if you slam with your operator into your Warframe, you are gonna get double combo counter, so this is gonna help you out as well. Especially if you're using Blood Rush, this is going to be a must-have. Also, we do want to talk about the Archon Shards of Choice, and we do have 3 red ones. We have 2 base ones and 1 Tau Force one, all of them giving us melee critical damage, and then 2 blue ones giving a total of 125 energy, 1 Tau Force, 1 base one. Now, the weapons of choice, we have 2 weapons here. We have the Cedo Prime, which is going to be primarily used for priming and actually killing enemies. This weapon can get you out of trouble if an acolyte appears and strips away all of your abilities, so I highly recommend you bring yourself a weapon that can kill acolytes as well. The second weapon recommendation is going to be the Epitaph with the Augur mods. This is going to apply status effects such as corrosive, heat, and you're also going to get random status effects alongside being incredibly good with brief respite. You must have think that I have forgotten the Wrathful Advanced build, and this is it up on screen. Yes, this is the 3rd build of the day. I did mention it a little bit later on just because I wanted to make it a little bit different, but pretty much everything is the same here. You're going to be using Wrathful Advance, and I would highly recommend you use Brief Respite just because you're going to be casting your 2nd, your 3rd, and your 1st ability so much, you're going to be almost gaining overshields by the amount of shields that you're going to be gaining. So here, I highly recommend Brief Respite. But one of the best things, Nautilus and Nautilus Prime. These are going to be our two companions of choice. This is Nautilus, you can see it up on screen. Nautilus is going to help you out so much because of Cordon, bringing enemies closer in, making you not need to worry about if you're going to see the enemies with Furious Javelin and tag them, because they're going to be right in front of you. Shield Recharger and Guardian are going to recharge your shields. Mystic Bond, every 5th ability is pretty much going to be free, and Synth Deconstruct loads of health and energy orb. And this is the Nautilus Prime build that I utilize. You can see it up on the screen right now, pretty much the same. And the weapon of choice is going to be Hellstrom. Hellstrom is incredibly good. We have gas, we have radiation, we have magnetic damage, we have impact, so many status elements, and having gas is going to make Synth Deconstruct proc so much, you're not going to have any issues with it. But if you're having issues playing this build, let me explain it to you pretty plain and simply. First of all, you enter the mission, activate your roar, and then if there's a couple of enemies nearby, you can activate the Radial Javelin. If there's no enemies nearby, activate your Exalted Blade and just start slashing and dashing towards them. You can use an energy pizza or maybe two to give yourself a little bit of a head start, and once you've done that, activate Radial Javelin, let Nautilus bring in the enemies, and you do damage. You get yourself the massive damage increases, you do the massive amounts of damage, and that's pretty much it. Keep your second ability, Roar, Wrathful Advance, active all the time. If you get into trouble, remember slash dash will always help you out, so always remember to use it. That's pretty much it. That's how you play Excalibur. I love the simplicity of this Warframe. I love the simplicity of the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Leave it in the comment section down below on what you think of Excalibur and what you think of the builds as well. I love it. I love Excalibur now. He is actually my S tier Warframe. I'm gonna put him in there just because I have no more issues with him and I can play him anywhere in Warframe. So I'm very interested, as I said, on what you guys think. Leave a like, do subscribe as well, click the little bell icon to always get notified. Become a member as well if you want to. Thank you so much for that. I always appreciate it. This has been your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel, over and out.